Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, as usual, before I begin with this lesson, I want to start it off by giving all the glory and infinite praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kahakadas. Double honor to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, who I'm taught and learn this truth 100% from. Peace and blessings be to all you Akim, Wakim, that are serving Yahweh Shema Shah sincerity, hoping for mercy and salvation in these last days, man. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Shema Shah Brakathon. I got camp, here shortly. Gotta go sound the spiritual alarm to our people. And I was just thinking on something to touch up on real quick, so I can knock out, my last two before I go to, go to the battlefield. And it just started raining out of nowhere. And I was just meditating on, a topic, which is, we touch upon this and mention it. We sound like a broken record when it comes to this topic. But the days before the flood, man. Right, the days of Noah, which the scripture says in Matthew, the 24th chapter, we're living in them times all over again, man. And when you look at the spirit that the, people at that time was living in, right, the way they conducted themselves in their everyday lives is the same way that people conduct themselves today, man. Proud, it's one prophecy after another, being ready to be fulfilled. And the scripture says in Revelations 12:12, woe unto the inhabitants of the earth, man. It's basically a big ass elephant in the room that people just choose to ignore. When eventually you ain't gonna be able to ignore it, because you're gonna be affected that bad when the Lord really allowed this man to bring his agendas in fruition, so to speak, man. But not paying attention, not worrying about anything that's happening. You ask somebody in the world, I done asked people this a couple of times just to see what spirit they'll be in. I'm finna have to roll this up. But I done asked people a couple of times just to see what spirit they'll be in, how they feel about certain things. And the shit they say is basically days before the flood type of spirits. You know what I mean? The days before the flood, spirit type shit. They say that they not worrying about it. They can't do nothing about it, so they just let it be in God's hands. You got people that pray against, the evil that's coming, including our people, man. You got, just because Trump is, so-called, I guess, finna throw out, a $2,000 stimulus, and he allowing motherfuckers to get their food stamps, and he opening up the government, people going back into a lackadaisical spirit. All right, the Most High has basically allowed this man to rock the people back to sleep before a temporary moment, man. For a temporary moment. All right, because this shit that he getting ready to do, it's getting ready to wake everybody who thought that that the worst couldn't happen. They getting ready to get woke the fuck up, right, with a bag of bricks. You know what I mean? But that same spirit is the spirit that the people take on today. You know what I mean? Like I was mentioning the elephant in the room. It's a big old elephant on the table. People's lives is being affected, on a small scale right now, but eventually that's just gonna grow into something that's gonna be overwhelmingly difficult to deal with, man. Because the scriptures talk about how people gonna be dwelling in torments, going through it in the mental, in the spirit as well, because you're gonna be seeking for answers and you're not gonna find it. You know what I mean? Pain. The Most High is gonna be having people. It's people out here that's on dialysis and shit. What you think? What kind of pain do you think they're gonna be experiencing when you rely on all these medications, all these chemicals that Esau has basically got your body addicted to? So when you go without it, you feel like shit. You damn near, on the verge of dropping dead. You know what I mean? What you think people are gonna be doing? What you think people are gonna be experiencing, man? All right. But the only difference this time is that the Most High is not gonna bring he's not gonna open up the floodgates in heaven and the fountains of the earth, to break the earth up no more, man. All right, this time it's gonna be by the way of that thermonuclear fire, man. Tensions between NATO and you got places, kingdoms like Russia, they backing up Venezuela, which Venezuela and America is currently at war with each other. You got tariffs that have placed and are continually to be placed. Wars and it is it's like inevitable, man. This shit is clear as day. And so when it does happen, this is gonna be the war to end all wars, man. And there ain't gonna be no you able to tell your grandchildren a couple of decades from now that you was a survivor of the bombing of America in World War III. You ain't gonna be able to do none of that shit. All right, that's gonna be literally the second death. The first death was fire. The second death is the first death was water. The flood. This time it's gonna be by the way of fire, man, via thermonuclear missiles. Anybody with some type of spiritual sense should be like, damn, God, that gotta be in the Bible, or there has to be some answers to how they have, they came all the way from the motherfucking Stone Age to possess a 20-ton missile that can fly from one continent to another within 15 minutes and obliterate a whole damn city and kill millions of civilians, man. Something like that got to be written in the Bible. But the thing about it is that the Most High has blinded these people, man. This is why it's easy for them to turn a blind eye to the shit that's taking place. The scripture says that a prudent and wise man foreseeth the evil. We see this shit coming. You know what I'm saying? The Lord has blessed us with them binoculars to see this shit afar, and it's not even that far. This shit is close, but the Lord has blessed us with the eyesight to see that this shit is close, and we need to basically get our house in order, as the scripture says. Get your spirit aligned with your help by Shema Shai, because once he bring this shit, that's all that's gonna matter, man. All right, once the Most High shut the ark door, and shit really just get the hitting the fan left and right, you're not gonna be able to get in right through the spirit. You're gonna have people seeking for answers, going here, going there, trying to. Let me roll this window up real quick. Trying to find answers, and you're not gonna be able to find it, man. Imagine the type of mental distress you're gonna be, dealing with when you know that shit, man. All right, but I guess before I end it off, I'll read the scripture real quick. Let's go to the book of Matthew, it's the 24th chapter. And I'm gonna start at 37. I'm gonna try to make this fast because I gotta go to camp. This the book of Matthew 24 and verse 37, and it reads, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." So with that being said, Adam Ratazah, this lesson was edifying, and that the ears of the hopeful elect, were edified, man. So with that being said, Shalom, Yahabah Shema Shabrak Atham, and the Bible.